started my journey as an engineer because it is around the year 2000 when I started my engineering, and as you would agree, those days, I don't know, looking at your age, I can't make out if you can understand, but those days, the best choice for somebody who is good in academics was engineering or medical. We did not have professions like podcasting at that point of time. So, since I was very bad at drawings, I chose engineering and the journey started.
Hello everyone. In today's Mitike Rang episode, we have with us Gauri Das, who is the HR from more than 14 years of experience, and we are very glad to have her on board with us today. Today we'll be covering on the topics like team culture, team journey, about her life journey, how she managed from all her possible failures or fears and overcoming them and to become like top 100 HRs. So we'll be covering all the topics that will help you also to develop yourself. So let's dive into our podcast. So thank you for being a part of Mitike Rang, ma'am.
Thanks, Khushi. I'm so happy to be here. I really admire the way Mitti Ke Rang is supporting humanity, is supporting society, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Before we dive deep into the conversation, I would really love if you could introduce yourself as who is Gauri Das and what's it's your mission for your life and for the people around you.
Great. So I will just say, if I have to say in a sentence, it would be passion with compassion. That is how I define myself and how my friends, colleagues also define me. I started my journey as an engineer because it is around the year 2000 when I started my engineering, and as you would agree, those days, I don't know, looking at your age, I can't make out if you can understand, but those days, the best choice for somebody who is good in academics was engineering or medical. We did not have professions like podcasting at that point of time. So, since I was very bad at drawings, I chose engineering and the journey started. In the third year of my course, I met a professor who was teaching us management because engineering also had a flavor of management. And he told me that he identified some qualities in me that I would make a good HR. And he suggested that I take forward HR as my career, and I should work towards that. And because of his belief, I thought, okay, I will do that. And I appeared for entrance exams because I was in Madhya Pradesh, and there you have entrance exams for MBA. And I secured a good position as well. But before I could join my college, like a normal Indian girl, I was married off, and I landed up in Assam. So from there, my journey started. However, I had this thing, the belief of my professor that I would be going for HR. So I started my working with an IT company in Assam as a HR professional and doing the entry level things, learning the ropes of the profession. And I mean, it was a high for me because Assam, as you would know, and in the year 2005, it was not as developed as it is today. So getting a job, and that too in profession of your choice, was an amazing feeling. And I realized after I couldn't do MBA that when there are opportunities which you cannot get, life will definitely open a new door for you. So it was kind of disappointment, but since I had hope and I had positivity, it got converted into something positive, and I could start my career in HR. From there, I moved on to Ahmedabad, and again similar situation. There were not many companies and all. I started working there as with a institute, and went on to teach MCA, MBA students along with continuing with my HR journey. And 2 years there, and I was blessed with my bundle of joy, and we moved to Mumbai. And it was a difficult journey again because I had to take care of my daughter as well and then restart. It was a new city. My life in Mumbai started with ride in local trains, and it was really, tiring and really challenging to manage all the things. Going back to work in a big city, commuting time was so much here. I had never seen it in Assam or Ahmedabad. And then very small daughter, so I went for a break. I took a break of around 2 years and then came back and restarted my journey with a FMCG company, which gave me an assignment to set up their office in Navi Mumbai and also to set up their HR department. This was an amazing learning because I had to do everything related to startup, setting up their processes, setting up their compliance structure, learning and development, and also developing a new team. So after this, I moved to a drastic change. I took up a change in my career. This was a startup, and then I moved to a company which was 30 years old, and they were doing a transition. They were in transition phase. They were a promoter-driven company for 30 years, and now acquired by an Australian MNC. Role here was to manage this acquisition and also to develop systems which were really contemporary, because so far it was all about having payroll and recruitment that is done by HR. So training, employee engagement, communication, developing new performance management system, kind of OD flavor also. These were the highlights of this journey, and I learned few skills here which I wanted to utilize next, and that's where I landed up in my current company. And here the first thing that I was supposed to learn was to give a respectful exits to all CXOs, because when I joined, the strategy changed, and I really learned the art of respectful firing, I should say. And people said that I'm a firing missile because the whole top layer was changed because of this change of strategy. And then to build a new team, reorganization, restructuring, and coordinating with new CEO. And in a year's time, we became profitable as well. So as part of executive management team and as head of HR, I had responsibilities not only related to people function, but also as a leader of the team. And this is how the journey is going.
That is amazing that how many times you have shifted from one place to another and working with different companies,
Yeah.
different MNCs, even startups, and that really developed yourself for being such a good place today. So you also had a story about your own failures that you faced in your engineering duration, right? In your first or second year. So could you
Yeah.
please share with that with us also?
Yeah, so my life is full of failures, I must say. I have messed up multiple times. This is one of those stories. So I'll tell you my background first. My primary education was from a village in Hindi medium, because my father was a factory manager, and we used to stay at a very small place. So reaching to school would take at least 2 kilometers of walk each side, and it would take up around 3 hours for me to commute every day. But that was the most decent school nearby which I could access to. So that's how the journey started, and struggle was part of my DNA. My parents gave me two values. One was respecting self and others, and second is this hard work and dedication and perseverance. Because of these things, I could do a lot of things in my life. Because when I went to Indore, again, it was a challenge, because you're coming from a very small place, you are from Hindi medium, and suddenly you are amongst international students. Because the college which I joined, it was having seats for people from all across the world. So another struggle. So this engineering happened, and then I went to college. And as I said, I was struggling because I came from a small city, and I was also coming from Hindi medium. Added to it, the challenge was drawing. Like I said, I chose engineering because I was bad at drawings. And in my first year, I had the subject called as engineering drawing. So I was definitely terrified by the mention of it. And it so happened in my first class that when I went and our professor gave us some assignment, when I submitted, he told me, "This is the worst drawing I have ever seen." And you can think of the motivation level that I had. I was already terrified, and here he is telling me this is worst drawing. And I thought I would not be able to do it. And the moment I realized this, that it is getting difficult, I'm not going to do it. My performance, anyways, it was not good, and it kept on a downward spiral. And then I failed. After that, I realized that I need to do something, and as there were values of perseverance and hard work, so I decided to reach out to another professor who was a very senior professor for engineering drawing, and I requested him to guide me. And the moment I mentioned that my drawing is very poor and that's where I failed, he told me, "What are you talking about? It's rubbish, because engineering drawing is all about your imagination, your visualization. It has nothing to do with your drawing, because you have to just draw straight lines, that too with a scale. And there are other protector also is available, a lot of instruments." I started studying under his guidance, and then I passed with very good marks. And I realized that it's all mind, impediment in mind, that stops us from flourishing. Had I realized this, that it is not about drawing and I'm bad at drawing, I was same person. Within 6 months, I did no wonders to my drawings, but I could pass with good marks because the thought process had changed.
Because the teacher told you that there's a concept of failing because of the drawing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. How he changed your mind into
Correct.
what
Yeah,
to
he gave
say.
me the right guidance. Correct. That you can do it. It's not impossible because you
So
think you can't draw.
so today there's like prevalent amount of fear of failure with everyone, and
Yeah.
everyone every day feels that okay, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail. So how exactly you would say that how can someone motivate themselves that no they cannot, or change their mindset because you have done it.
Multiple times. Yeah, it happened multiple times with me. I would say it's not fear of failure which stops. It's exactly fear of shame. We have our inflated egos. We have we have certain impressions, certain self-esteem, and if we think that we are not able to do it, we kind of go in a shell and we think that no, it's impossible. And what if I fail? What would people say? So this is the most important thing. What would people say if I fail? My self-esteem would go down, and I would not be able to survive this failure. What I like I said, I think life is all about messing up, and there have not been any success stories without failure. You talk about penicillin, it was discovered because somebody forgot to do a particular procedure. He had to cover a particular bowl where he had kept some chemical, and he forgot that, went for a vacation. When he came back, he saw that the mold has grown and it is killing the bacteria, and that's how it was discovered. Would he be unhappy, thinking that, oh, I made a mistake, I messed up, and or he would be very sad or happy that this thing happened, that they could discover something new? It depends on the mindset. There is a fat chance that he was not happy knowing that it happened by mistake, or there is a chance that it depends whether it's a growth mindset or it is not. Similarly, if you see any success stories talking about J.K. Rowling, she failed 12 times. I mean, 12 publishers did not accept her book, the same book which made her one of the richest women in the world today.
Yeah,
And you talk about Steve Jobs, he was fired from his own company that he founded one day. You talk about Walt Disney, he was fired for lack of imagination. Can you beat that? So this keeps on happening
exactly.
with people, and there is no success stories. And like Michael Jordan puts it beautifully, that I have lost 9,000. I mean, I have missed 9,000 shots, lost 300 matches, and also 26 time I was trusted with the winning strike, but I couldn't do it. And that's what leads to success. This last line is very important, that when you mess it up, you really do something good. And that's why we should allow ourselves permission to fail. Failure is an integral part. So this is my overall thought process on it. Now, how would you do? So there are certain tools about it. The first thing that I rely on is to be in company of people who are really positive, who think that it's not bad to fail because failure is a stepping stone for success. Like research says, if you are accompanied by people who are not healthy, there are 57% more chances that you would be fat soon. Similarly, if you are around surrounding yourself with growth mindset people, there is fat chance that you will be having this mindset. They will be there to push you. They will be there to tell you right things. Sometimes when we are very low and somebody says it's fine to fail, and we generally, I mean, we take it up and we become very cheerful, thinking that okay, it's part of human life. So that is point number one. We need to be surrounded by people who are okay to fail, who understand that failure is part of life. Second thing is kind of a learning to fail. So if you have seen this movie Star Trek, you will see that there is an assignment to the captain, which is a no-win situation. In psychology, we call it a no-win situation, wherein whether you take this action or you don't take any action. So they had to rescue another ship. If they go for it, they were fully sure of destruction. If they don't go, then again there was destruction for themselves. So it's a no-win situation. You can't do anything about it. And in such situation, what you do is you learn. So go to the best person whom you know and play chess with him so that you know you will fail and you will learn how to fail. How to fail gracefully, learning this is very important. Third thing, how do we eat an elephant? We eat an elephant step by step. So keep the milestones small and achievable so that you know, okay, I have achieved here, I have reached here, I will take a next step forward. And finally, have a failure log. We say we should have a gratefulness log, we say we should have a success log, but failure log is equally important. I have written on what all I have done incorrectly or what all was not able to manage well and what should be done next. Because to make a mistake is not a problem, but repeating it is a problem. We have to learn from our failures. So this is my mantra of managing different failures in life.
That is amazing, and the fifth point is really amazing because I have never heard people saying that make your failure work. So, writing about your own failures sometimes it makes you realize that okay, I would have done this things, and I'm telling you, even I have just started writing journaling just
Yeah.
recently, a week back. Okay, and in a
Okay.
week, I
That's
have
interesting.
yeah, I have just recognized that okay, first 2 days was really difficult for me to write. I'm like, what should I write? And now every day I'm like, okay, I have done these mistakes. I have to improve this. I have to improve this next day. Even if I
Yeah.
slept like 30 minutes late because I was binge watching or something, I used to write it on my journal. Okay, next time I will not do this because it's hampering my sleep. So even these small things are actually changing my life and changing myself to be a more into a happiness side rather than being saying that okay, I have slept only for 4 hours today and I'm very tired. So I feel that this is a very good idea and I will also do this because I've never done this. I never heard it before. This is the first time I've been hearing about writing your
Okay, that's
failure
great.
log.
Do that and do share your experience as well because for me it has helped. And especially when I was raising my child, she's now 11 and a half. There were a lot of things which I was doing wrong, and then I got to learn from here, there, everywhere. I used to make a log so that next time I can avoid it. But as human, it is still possible that we do the same mistake second time also. But
Happens
at least third time we
unconsciously.
would be careful. Yeah, right. Consciously we would not be doing definitely, and that's a good point.
Yeah, so it just makes you realize that where you're conscious and where you're not. So
Correct.
you have also mentioned about having a positive anger, which really
Yeah.
attracted me because I have never heard about a positive anger. From my childhood, I've been told that okay, being angry is a negative form. So please put more light into it so that our viewers also will get to know about it.
This is very interesting and it really helps. So, what do you think causes anger? I mean, in your experience, generally, if you have analyzed, what would have caused anger? Say, for example, um, somebody say, okay, I'm taking a hypothetical situation. So there's a couple, a man and his wife, and one day this his wife finds out that he's cheating on him And she confronts him, and then he says, "I'm sorry," and he starts crying and all of it. And she says, "No, you have to go out of this house, and there's no relationship anymore." But he somehow is able to convince her that I am going to follow the right path, and she is ready to give it a try. In this process, she has not expressed any anger as yet, right? Yeah. Now, what is happening is this anger is bottling up inside her,
Yeah.
and if it continues to happen, you seen any such situation? Have you faced anything like
Yeah, yeah.
this?
Sometimes it
Okay,
happens.
so you
I'm not angry in that moment, but it just comes up again and again,
yeah.
and then it just bursts off.
Yeah, so it's boom, it explodes. So similarly, it's happening with her, and she is trying to be a nice woman. She's doing her day's job and then coming back and trying to be smiley with her husband and all of it. But it is bottling inside, bottling up. And if what will happen ultimately is, in a month's time or whatever ways her body takes it, she is soon going to have some disease which would not be coming up, because anger has to come out, emotions have to come out. If it is not coming out directly in form of an outburst, it would come out in some other form. Because what anger does is it keeps us in state of arousal, and because of that the adrenaline is always secreted. And if it is a state of constant arousal, our body is not able to take it. It needs to go back to a normal situation, which is called as homeostasis. In this situation, she is going to definitely bow. Now, what options she has? One is either just exploding, which will be hurting her relationship or hurting other people in any other situation, or she can just keep it inside her, which she is doing, but by doing that she is actually hurting herself. So if you don't express, you are hurting yourself. If you express, you are hurting others. So what to do? So express, but in a positive or constructive manner. Now, how would you do it? So there is a study which says that if you write your emotions, or if you write about the incident that has happened, the power of that emotion reduces. So you can write it down first of all, and that will help you bring it down, bring it out, and bring down the emotions. Second, you can dance it out, you can sing it out, or you can paint it out. And I'm sure, irrespective of what kind of painter or dancer or singer you are, it can come out very beautifully. So that is another way to do it. And that's where we hear mandala art, and there are other art forms wherein you can express your anger. What else can be done is called as a gestalt technique. In that, you will sit across a chair and you will assume that the person is sitting there or with whom you have this emotion, and you will be talking to him, or screaming, or telling him whatever emotions you have. Or you can go a step further. You can take two pillows and thrash them as well. Okay, so your whatever emotions have bottled up, they would just cool down. And once your emotions have cooled down, your logical brain will start working, because we know why emotions make us blind, because only our emotional brain, amygdala, is working. Our logical brain, which is cortex, it stops working because amygdala takes control. The moment your logical brain starts working, you will find a way out. And then the most important step is to talk to that person in that cool state of mind, so that the same thing is not repeated and you are out of your emotions. So this is the constructive or positive way to deal with emotions. We should never repress them. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it truly makes sense. And I'm that kind of person who actually burst out, and then I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I don't know why I bursted out with such a small thing, and then I
Hmm.
realize that okay, it's like the past events that have come together, and I'm just bursting out all those things
Yeah.
again. So that happens again and again. So it's a very beautiful concept, and one which I liked was the visualizing a person or a thing or a situation being there and trying to letting out your feelings.
Yeah, that helps, because then you have vented it out already. Now you are in better frame of mind and you can speak to this person. But speaking to this person and confronting is still very important. Otherwise, same thing will be happening again, and conveying our emotions is important.
Yeah, that is
Try
true.
this next time.
Yeah. Sure. I'm learning so much. So I want to know, being in HR, that how being in HR, your life, how has been changed your life, how you have developed yourself, what are your personal growth journey been like?
Yeah. So this is an interesting question which will take me to my past and make me express all my learning journey in different forms. Like I said, I was an engineer and I had no formal education in HR. So when I started, it was HR administration, which was fine. But the most important thing in HR today is employee experience. It's all about creating those strategies and creating those moments for employees where you can differentiate yourself as a great place to work, or as as an employer who is a differentiator in terms of how you are treating people. But this did not come easy, as you rightly said. It has been a journey, and there have been different moments. So when I started working with this startup wherein I set up HR department, I came up with a lot of learnings in terms of how are we going to connect with others, and how are you going to sell your organization. You need to create those employee value propositions for yourself, for your organization, when you are talking to these prospective employees. So that was one of the things which I learned, and then I also learned in further other jobs. But in terms of personal learning, I am a student forever, and after completing my engineering, I 6 years after that I went for my MBA in HR, and last year I completed my psychology post graduation. I also did a lot of certifications, to name a few: OD certification, reward certification, NLP, all these things. And then being in company of people who are progressive, who are growth oriented, has really helped me. And a transition point was definitely HR 40 under 40, because when I went there, I realized that there's so much out there. People know so much, they are doing so many things. And then I started learning from them one by one, because we had a WhatsApp group and there were a lot of activities which we were doing in terms of team, and connecting with them and realizing that you are not there. You need to really up your game in order to do good with your organization and yourself as well. So from all these things, I kept on learning, and I'm learning even today.
That's amazing. So because of the COVID-19, things have like shifted in a very fast pace. So I would really like to know how the team culture has been impacted and what the team cultures will be like after COVID-19.
This is a pertinent question for today's time, and now we know that COVID is going to stay with us for a very long time. In terms of team, how I look at it is, any employee or any team, I look at it in terms of Maslow's hierarchy. There are 5 levels, right? So the basic level is about basic necessities. There's psychological safety, then there is belonging, self-esteem, and then you have your self-actualization. Before COVID, you definitely have your salary, so the first thing is sorted. Second one also is sorted, because you have security in terms of job security, or your team support. You can see them every day. It was easy. Self-esteem and recognition was also easily coming by, because people were together. You can go to anybody and give a pat on the back that you did well and you really helped. And similarly, self-actualization, because observational learning is an important aspect when it comes to learning. And when you are surrounded by people, senior leaders, you definitely look at them and you learn from them. So it was easily coming before COVID era. Now, after COVID, each and every level of it has become a challenge, because there are challenges in terms of business survival. There are challenges in terms of whether there will be jobs, how many jobs will be remaining. Every day we are hearing that there are challenges in terms of employment. So this needs to be really taken care of well. And during COVID and after that, you need to really look for those signs. Is there any distress in employees? Are they worried whether their job will remain or not? And you need to give them that psychological safety. So this is how the transition is already happening, and it will happen in future. Second thing, because people are away from each other, right? You can't go to somebody and give them kind of a hug or something like that, that okay, we are there for you, but you need to do it virtually now. And when it comes to self-esteem and recognition, so we have to design programs, which we are, I'm sure all HRs are already doing, that they are creating programs which can run virtually. Like just a week ago, we launched a program which is called as My Motivator. Now, what this program does is bring in positivity in system. So if you are someone I interacted with and I realized that I felt positive even for a moment, I will be recognizing you as a my motivator. So think about the
Okay.
overall positivity that this program would bring in. You are feeling good because somebody recognized you as a motivator, and I felt happy talking to you. So likewise, we have to create something which will really fulfill the need of the hour. And self-actualization is again a challenge, because earlier it was easy to learn, and like I said, observational learning is missing. But it has online learning courses have taken place of it, and there are still ways, and we are it's a journey in progress. We have not completed it as yet, but slowly and steadily we will be reaching to that level also, where self actualization can also be met sitting at home. Besides that, there are some positives also, like so far we run a, it's a global organization that I work for. So if there are people who are sitting at different places and you are sitting in the boardroom, then generally what happens is those people who are physically present, they will be talking, and others will be just go silent, they'll be going silent. But now everybody has level, it has become a level playing field, right? So be it introverts or be it people who are far away, they would also participate. So the team dynamics is changing here, because the way people used to communicate is changing, and it has become very close. I just read that in an organization they experimented, and they asked people to show their homes to everybody. So you take a camera and you move around the whole house and you show it. And many a times people would have linked it, right? If you and I work together, I would talk to you that, okay, I have this in my home and this is what I like, or this is my place of comfort. And now you are showing it to people, which was never possible earlier. So that kind of gives a bonding which was not there earlier. So this is also a different kind of dynamics, where people who are away, who are introverts, they are speaking, and also you are able to show more towards your life, and that is creating a bond.
Oh, that's amazing. So, something I want to know, as many people have graduated from their colleges or are in second years, so they all are freshers and they want to start their journey in the corporate world. So, what exactly you guys look into a person or a fresher's personality before hiring them?
So there are various aspects, and it moves from company to company, because we will be having certain competencies on which we look for people. But definitely, one thing remains common: the uh, zeal, the enthusiasm, which can be evaluated, because there will be skills which cannot be evaluated on face. Or then second thing is what you are doing, you should be knowing. Many a times people will go for internship, but when you ask them what did you do there, generally they will be blank about it. So this is most important thing for about, because of which people are not selected in interviews. What you do, you must know. That is most important thing. Second, behavioral aspect. So there are notions about this generation, that this generation is entitled, because that's how parents have given them the upbringing. Everything was available for them, and they were mostly single child, and that's why full attention, and that has made them pampered. That's not true, but this is a notion which many people carry. And that's where it's very important that your behavioral aspect are in alignment with the values that that the organization is you are going for. So these are two three things which we look for when we hire a fresher for us.
Basically, your values should incline with the organization values to create that passion and the zeal in work, basically.
Correct. Yeah. Because value based hiring has become very important now. That's the differentiator. You can have people who are skilled, but skill can be, you can train somebody for those skills. What is important is your attitude and your values. If your values are not matching, because yeah, I would not name the organization, but there are organizations where they hire people like one of those things is related to Taj. We always say that when this attack happened, none of the employees left the hotel and they were first caring about the guest, right? Why did this happen? So when they analyzed, they realized that they were hiring people who were related to, I mean, who were coming from small cities, and they were having those kind of values of hospitality and taking care of guest. वो हम कहते हैं ना, भगवान होता है मेहमान. In cities we don't have that because we don't have resources, and if somebody comes it's like a headache, right? But for small cities it's still a pleasurable thing that if somebody is coming to your home. Or in another city, another organization, what they do is they go to the colleges and they check with the principal and their teachers who are the people who respect their parents the most. That is one of the selection criteria. So they don't go for people who are very high in academics or who are high in extracurricular, but they go for people who are more respectful of their parents, because that is the value which matches. So value can be a differentiator for candidates if they go through the website in detail and try to find out everything which is available on Google. They would be able to identify with the values. And as a candidate, one also needs to be sure, if my values are not matching, is it really worth going for this organization? So it's a win-win situation for both.
Yeah, that is true, and that is something I didn't haven't any idea about. That comparing with your parents, how they are, how the children are behaving with their parents, and having respect towards them. So that's amazing. So before we wrap up, I have a few questions for you. I wanted to ask any book that you would like to share, any movie that inspired you that you would like to share with our audience.
I'm not much a movie person, but books definitely. So there is this book, Alchemist. It really talks about who you are really and where can you go if you just go with the flow. Or life is like a journey and you go with the flow. So I will definitely recommend Alchemist.
So, if you have to give yourself, your younger self, an advice, so what advice that will be?
My advice would be look for a mentor soon in your career, because that's one thing which I never did. And when I really did it, I realized that this has a lot of advantages and I should have done it much earlier. For me, especially after my first job, I have been reporting to CEOs. So in HR, my word is the last word. And that's where I realized that when you really have a mentor who knows the subject more than you learn from there. And that is one advice which I will give to my younger self.
That's amazing. So, something I want to ask on that lines, you asked about like having a mentor. So, how exactly you think that we can find our mentors, especially those who are freshers, who are coming out of their schools, they're coming out of their colleges and want to start something?
Yeah. So again, there should be an alignment, and mentee has to reach the mentor. So for women, there are a lot of platforms where you can go. Like there is one Star in Me. They have this mentorship program. Women can approach them, and they will align you with a mentor. For example, if you are from marketing, they will have someone, some expert in marketing, who can support you. So this is a mentorship platform. There are few more likewise, and otherwise we have a biggest platform, LinkedIn. From LinkedIn you can identify who you would like to have your mentor, and then you can try to approach them. Like few people have approached me and I'm working with them through LinkedIn. There is no other platform, nothing. Because as a I mean as a professional, I want to give back to society, and there are many more people like that who would like to give back to people, younger generation, and they are happy to support. And similarly, for people who would like to look for a mentor, they need to they will be aligned with it. But it is a really big task for mentees, both mentees and mentor. But mentee need to be very dedicated and devoted in learning from them. because this is how the relationship is. So that is one thing. Second, in many organizations, you have this platform called as mentor-mentee platform, wherein you can apply for it and you can get benefit. But I would say LinkedIn is a place where you can get a mentor from anywhere in this world. So that's the biggest platform, and we can definitely utilize it.
And it's a very much emerging platform nowadays.
Yeah,
And because of the COVID-19, everyone is there now.
correct.
So thank you so much for being here, sharing so much insights, and I've learned so much. And today I'll write all my fears as well on my journal.
Have,
So
great.
now I have something to write on my journal because of this conversation I had with you. So thank you so much. And I know our viewers have also got so much insights, and they will also start maintaining their journals.
Great. So even if one person is benefited by this talk, I'm so happy about it.
So
Thank you so much,
thank
Kushi.
you so much.